Hi, everyone. Okay, so this is still week 3. Second chapter for this week is chapter 5. And so we're going to discuss this one. As much in like lecture, what I'm trying to do is more as much as lecture setting as I can do via the electronics. And I think it's real close for those of you that really like that kind of formatting. So for lecture 5, the objectives, what you should know when you get done is you should know how to apply phase 2 of the 3x3 writing process. And in this case begins with formal and informal research. 2, explain how to generate the ideas and organize information to show relationships. Compose the first draft of a message using a variety of sentence types, avoiding sentence fragments, run-on sentences, and comma splices. Improve your writing techniques by emphasizing important ideas, employing the active and passive voice, using parallelism, and preventing dangling and misplaced modifiers. All this has homework that you will be doing. And like I said on the last video, your homework is your third video. Draft effective paragraphs using 3 classic paragraph plans and techniques. All right, so let's get going. Okay, so this is talking about the gap, when the gap was cool. The basis of this is that some people think that the gap is becoming kind of old-fashioned, and it's different. It's spreading itself to where it's not really hitting the popular look. It says company that formerly pioneered the casual cool look with fitted jeans, khakis, and simple t-shirts now appears to have lost its fashion compass. And so you can read that, especially if you're a fan of the Gap, you may want to. So the critical thinking for this chapter is in what ways would research, gathering your information be important to the Gap, Old Navy, and Banana Republic in coaxing their customers back? What Gap managers and all business communicators do before making management decisions? And what techniques can business communicators at the Gap and other companies use to generate ideas for new products as well as to improve business processes? And this is the critical thinking that you might want to use to approach this. Remember, what is the purpose? All right, so let's get going. All right, here's this. We just saw it last chapter, the 3x3 writing process, pre-writing, drafting, and revising. Analyze the purpose of the message. What do you want the receiver to do or believe? Anticipate what does the audience already know and how will it receive the message? And think about the techniques to present this message most effectively. Drafting, gather background data by searching files in the internet. Okay, so this is more electronic type thing or more research oriented is what I wanted to say. Arrange direct messages with the first big idea or the first thought first. For persuasive or negative messages, use an indirect problem solving strategy. Prepare the first draft using anti-voice sentences, coherent paragraphs, and appropriate transitional expressions. And then revising. Okay, so you've done the pre-writing, you've done the drafting, now you're revising. Eliminate wordy fillers, long lead-ins, redundancies, proofreading it, and then evaluating did it meet your purpose. And so down here, informal research methods, search company files, talk with a boss, interview target audience. Now, target audience is if you're going to do research, and it may be a live audience or it's narrowed down, and they do this for TV too, and they do this for everything they sell, like the iPhones and any kind of phone. Okay, we are trying to reach women that are single, age 18 to 25, to have them look and try to get them to buy this skirt. Okay, the criteria of single woman, 18 to 25, whatever, that's called the target audience. It's who are you trying to, I mean, everybody else is okay, but who is your primary focus? Who's the primary group of people that you're trying to get in what you're doing? And then conduct an informal survey. Then there are, see, this is informal. So then there's formal research methods, which is like term papers or professional journal articles. You access electronic sources. You do a search manually, um, and you investigate primary sources. You have to understand what primary sources are. And there's primary and secondary. Primary sources are immediate sources. Secondary sources are more research. Conduct scientific experiments. And here is an example of one and how they're doing brainstorming. Kind of funny looking, isn't it? So objective 2, explain how to generate and organize to show relationships. So um, generally produce best results. Define the problem, create an agenda that outlines the topics. Okay, this is for, it doesn't say right here, but this is for brainstorming. You will need to know this. Truthfully, I know you need to know it, but I know where. It will come up again during this quarter that you will need to know this. So I don't know. You may want to just make sure you flag it for yourself somewhere. Define the problem, create an agenda that outlines the topics, establish time limits, set a quota such as a minimum of 100 thoughts, quantity, not quality. Require every participant to contribute ideas, encourage wild thinking, write ideas on flip charts or sheets of paper, and organize and then classify. Now, this may seem a little weird to you. The first time I heard it when I was in college, just like, what? Just throwing things out? That's the wild thinking. It is, because if people start and they start trying to think, well, should it be this or should it be that? Sometimes really good thoughts get lost because you overthink it. And so if you have 10 people in the room and the problem is how do you get, I'm trying to think of a problem that business might have. How do you get, okay, how do you get enough parts to create? How do we make enough parts to create um, a widget? Go ahead, laugh. Sometimes I come up with funny ones. A widget is just a generic term for a thing, all right? And this thing, the widget, has to be able to go across the room in one throw at one time. Okay, so the problem, define the problem. How do we get the widget across the room? Create the agenda that outlines the topics to be covered. Okay, so you kind of think, all right, there's topics to defining the problem. We will talk about this for 15 minutes. We need to come up with a minimum of 100 ideas. Require everybody has to put in an idea at least. No one's wrong. No one's going to get laughed at. No one's going to get shot down. You just throw out the ideals. So everyone has to contribute. You accept it and you improve on it. And nothing is too wild. Well, we could put wings on the widget and have it fly across the room. We could put a propeller on it and throw it across the room. We could pretend like it's a paper plane and then just pitch it across the room. Wild thinking. No one's going to criticize. No one's going to say, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Okay. And while people are writing these ideas, you're putting like on, the sticky flip chart things that stick on the wall. Somebody is writing, usually the moderator is writing all the thoughts so that you don't lose it, but people can see what's being said. And then when you all get said and done, you organize them. And this is, this is one we can consider now right away. This may be for later, that type of thing. It's really kind of cool. That's why it's important to do. One of my all-time favorite movies, Monsters, Inc. Designers, engineers, artists, and animators, video game designers, marketers, and theme park employees gather 20 to 30 times a year. They meet for 2 to 3 days of brainstorming sessions at hotels around the world. 3 elements are crucial to their success. Icebreaker activities from 10 minutes to half an hour. 45 to 60-minute brainstorming sessions in which teams list as many ideas as they can. And then a product pitch, including a storyboard of the best toy ideas. Storyboard means a lot of times a storyboard is like telling a story. You have the front of it's a big piece of paper. It usually like you have little squares, and it's the start. And so they're the best toy. So this is what we want to do with the toy. And this was what the toy might look like. And then when it goes to the second section of manufacturing, this is what it may be. And at the end, you have the finished product. And then so you're going to pitch this to your colleagues to say, this is why my toy idea is better than yours. Okay, so grouping using lists and outlines is usually a good ideal. Some people like to straight list. I like the cluster outlines. For me, it's really neat because then I can just see how it all falls together. So here's a regular outline. Major components, you have email. In an email, there's an opening, a body, and a closing. Procedure outline, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Informational report, introduction, facts, and then a summary. Um, Analytical, this is more scientific. Introduction or what the problem is, what's your facts or findings, what's your conclusions, and what's the recommendations. This doesn't have to be scientific. It could be something that you need to research for work. Maybe there's an issue with a product being made or customer procedures. And a proposal, you're going to have a homework on this one that covers the proposal. So it's the introduction, the solution, the staffing, and the schedule cost authorization. And then here's the different parts of it, opening it into strategies. Again, read all the little signs. Direct strategy for receptive audiences. You need to understand what the direct strategy and indirect strategy is. It says the primary difference is the main where it's placed. In the direct strategy, the main ideal comes first, then details, explanation, evidence. Indirect, main ideals follows the details, explanation, and evidence. In other words, direct means, has anyone ever told you, just tell it to me straight, don't give me any cushioning, just let me know what it is. And others is you kind of have to build into it and build up to it. You don't want to tell them what's going on right away. You kind of have to set the stage. It's the old-fashioned, I don't know if you guys know what that is. That's the old-fashioned way of saying it. Here's our little blips. Indirect opening, a direct opening. All this gets condensed to this. This direct method is also called front loading. Has 3 advantages. Saves the reader's time, proper frame of mind, and reduces frustration. And here is a really good example. Ethics check. This is always a good thing to read. Indirect strategy for unreceptive audiences. So you have to sit there and tell somebody something they don't want to hear. It may be that plant's going to close. They're not going to get a raise. Okay. That's things I can think off the quick top of my head. Works well with bad news, thoughts that require precision, and sensitive news. So respect the feelings of the audience, facilitates a fair hearing, and then minimizes a negative reaction. Now you're to composing the first draft with effective sentences, and here's the learning objective on the right. And some experts suggest that you write quickly. Free writing, I am a huge fan of free writing. Have you ever said, if you ever have, I know you've done research papers, you sit down to do a research paper, you have all this information. Oh my gosh. You have information from Wall Street. You have the information from business news. You have the information from Physician's Journal if you're in the medical field. You have all these sources, okay? And it's like, okay, now where do I go? So you just kind of put, okay, this sort of feels like it's going to be the first part, the second part, the third part, and you kind of put it in order. And then you sit down and you just start writing. If you come across something, you could go get it, but you just keep writing. You don't stop. You tell someone to take care of the kids or, tell your significant other, leave me alone for a couple of hours. Just go in there and you just start writing. It doesn't matter whether it's organized or not organized. It doesn't matter what fashion. It's just whatever you're thinking about, that's what goes down. The theory is, and professional writers do this, the theory is that once you stop the juices flowing and you lose your thoughts. So you get your thoughts down and refine them in later versions. Don't let yourself get bogged down. Insert a substitute or type fine perfect word later. You can write notes to yourself. So 4-sentence type, a simple sentence, compound, complex, and compound complex. And so noun, verb, maybe join a compound sentence, maybe joined by an and but. Be careful because these, using ands, sometimes also means a run-on sentence. Run-on sentences are two sentences joined by and that could totally stand alone. Okay, so this one, the entrepreneur saw an opportunity and she responded immediately. So using this and she responded immediately cannot stand alone. The entrepreneur saw an opportunity and he decided to take that opportunity. So the entrepreneur saw an opportunity, he decided to take the opportunity. So that's the difference from a run-on. Here's a compound complex. We'll have homework on that. 3 common sentence faults, fragments, revisions. Here's run on. See, many job seekers prepare traditional resumes. Some also use websites as electronic portfolios. Many job seekers prepare, I can't talk today, I'm sorry. And then period. Some also use websites as electronic portfolios. Comma splices, I think these are sometimes the most confusing, but you can figure it out. Here's a comma splice, and here's the 3 revisions that can be as a result of this. And this is always good. Short sentences, this is always interesting. 8 words is 100% understanding. 15 words in a sentence, 90%. 28 words, people are only going to understand 50% of what you write. And then here it tells you some things not to do. And improving your writing techniques. Here's a general, here's vivid. The way we socialize is changing. Okay, fine, so what? Facebook has dramatically changed the way people socialize on the web. This is much more clear. Here's your objective for this section. Unlabeled, labeled, the main ideal. Place an important ideal first. Place it in a simple sentence or an independent clause. Making sure the important thought is the sentence subject. Using the active and passive voice effectively. And here's just some graphs that would be good for you. You will need to know what this is for a homework assignment or for an assignment for this week. Lacks illustrates. Good writers don't let their modifiers dangle in public. Yeah, that's supposed to be cute. And then here's more examples. This is good information. Again, remember the italics. Okay. And then here is ask the question who or what. After any introductory phrases, the words immediately following should tell the reader who or what is performing the action. Try the who. So this is great suggestions and clues if you can remember them. It would be helpful if you do. Building well-organized paragraphs. You have a topic sentence, supporting sentences, limiting sentence. Using a direct paragraph plan to define, classify, illustrate, describe. And then here is examples. Your topic sentence tells you what the report's going to be about. All right. And so same thing. The topic sentence kind of tells you what's coming. It's like a preview. Using the pivot paragraph plan to compare and contrast. Indirect paragraph plan to explain and persuade. For those of you that tweet, you may find this interesting. Developing paragraph coherence. That means where you just understand. Sustaining the key idea. And to give you an example right here. Dovetailing sentences. These is kind of cool to do. Including pronouns, but watch your pronouns. One time I had a student write a paper for me, and on one page, it was about a company. She had to research a company. And so the first page had some information about the company, and she would use the company name. By the second page, she was going, the company. And she used that about 20 times. And then she started with it. It is. It is. And on the third page, when she was doing the it is, she used it is 40 times. Yeah. She didn't realize she did that because I talked to her. Transitional phrases is how you get from one place to another. Drafting short paragraphs for readability. In business, the shorter the better, but you still have to get your word across. All right. Like I said, in academics, sometimes more is better. In business, less is more. So to add or strengthen, you can use these words to show time or order, to clarify it, to show cause and effect, to contradict, or to contrast. These are that get you going. Okay, so here's a checklist of everything that they've talked about in this chapter. All right. And we're not doing this, but you can read through it. Here's a summary of learning objectives. You really should go over this. Phase 2, how to generate the ideas and organize information, compose a first draft, improve writing techniques. And then in the next video, chapter review, make sure you go over this to help make sure you understand it. It may take a little bit, but it will help you so much when you're trying to do the writing and the quizzes to have gone over this. And we're going to go over your assignments for this one in a third video. Okay, so that's it. Take care. Have fun. Bye-bye.